Alright, so totally the first time I've done this. Uh, Definitely didn't have an interrupted first session. Nope. World's largest dungeon, here we go. Just gonna rant about the world's largest dungeon here. In case you don't know, it's a 3rd edition D&D adventure slash set of adventures slash campaign. In it, uh, they claim it's not intended to be run as a campaign, even though it's set up to be run as a campaign. It's got levels and milestone comments, etc., etc. But that's all right. We'll get over that. So published by AEG shortly before they stopped doing RPG stuff. The cover of it there, you can see it says Jim Pinto, the only name on the cover. I'll go through the credits real quick, just so I feel like it's worth doing. And again, this is totally the first time I'm doing this. Totally not the second time. Um, but yeah, I'll go through this just this one time, and then I'll kind of forget about the credits as I hit like Region A, Region B, etc. So since I know I'm not gonna remember to do it, then I'll just do it now. The intro. So here we go. Written by Region A was Michael Hams. Region B, Chris Burns and Jim Pinto. Region C, Jeff Stolten, Richard Fries. Region D, Robert Schwalb. Region E, Lee Hammock. Region F and G, Richard Fries. Region H, Jennifer Bauman. Region I, Mark Carroll and Jim Pinto. Region J, Jeff Dom. Region K, Patrick Capera. Region L, Dana DeVries. Region M, Mark Carroll, Richard Fries, and Patrick Capra. Region N, Richard Fries. Region O, Ari Marmel and Jeff Eibach. With additional writing, Jennifer Bauman, Dana DeVries, Alexander Freed, Sean Holland, Kevin Millard, Aaron Rosenberg, and F. Wesley Schneider. The Spelunkers, whom I assume are the only people that actually playtested it, no comments on how much playtesting, etc., which would have been nice, but that's alright. Brian Bates, Ronald Carlson, Sean Holland, Christy Mack, Kevin Millard, Arthur Ride, and James Sparling. Let's see. The line developer, Jim Pinto. Illustrations by William O'Connor. I do like the illustrations. I think the illustrations are solid. They're possibly the best part of this module, which, if you know where I'm going with this, is saying something. Because it's not about the illustrations. Cartography by Chris Dornhaus. If I pronounced that wrong. Editing by Jim Pinto, Katie Yates. Art direction by Jim Pinto, creative director Mark Jelfo. Graphic design Nate Barnes. D20 Rules Maven Sean Hollard. Chief Executive Officer John Zinser, who is the one who had the original concept. Chief Operations Officer Maureen Yates. Production Manager Mary Vollins. And it does say this one is for that little hack and slasher in All of Us. May he one day rid the world of evil. And I will say that D&D is not a hack and slash video game. It does not work like that. You can have D&D video games, but don't run D&D like a video game. It doesn't work. It never works. So then they've got all the maps laid out together on one spread. Each region is labeled. It's got the levels for each of them, so it looks all nice. It gives you the impression that it's a campaign again. But then they go and say, no, it's not a campaign. Don't worry about it. So they get into the intro, which I'm not going to get into a whole lot, but like, man, they just don't have a way for all this info to really get to the players. Like, they really put all of that on the DM, and I think that's one of the weakest points of it, is how much information is in this book, and there's just no vector for the DM to get it to the player. So I'm just gonna say that now, and I'll try not to repeat myself there, because it's always there in the back of my mind. And then there's a whole bunch of great introductory information here about like ecology and things. And I say great because it would be helpful if you were running an individual region on its own. However, I think most people would want to run it as a campaign, and that's where it all breaks down. For example, things like the underground springs of water providing all manner of sustenance. Like, initially it sounds great, and like, yes, perfect, but the whole premise is that you can't escape. If the dungeon has been so weakened that underground springs of water are there below it, breaking through. Like, of course they can get out. They just break through the floor and get out. There's water. They can do it. So it's very frustrating conceptually that things like that are listed. I'm not going to get into all of them. I will point out that the fact that it's advertised as having every monster in the SRD as like a selling point is just wrong. They don't. But to their credit, they do go into the fact that they don't have every monster. What's the exact wording here? Let's see. You're probably wondering, how did AEG fit one of everything in here? Well, that's easy to answer. We didn't. And then they explain that it's like they have a representative of everything. And to their credit, like they've already got a stupidly large product. If they had literally every single age category of every single colored dragon, among all the things with all the variations, it would get even more repetitive than they already made it. But I could argue that maybe they could have not done 17 encounters of dark mantles. Maybe just had like a wormling dragon in there. It's not like it's internally cohesive already. Could have done that. But I'll get into that more once I start pounding Region A into the ground. Anyhow, there's a great section that I think is easily missed right there in the beginning, introduction, page 5, Lantern Archons. Now, I use the Lantern Archons in my campaign, but it's just a little blurb. It's so easy for the DM to read that initially, kind of forget about it. It doesn't really matter. I think there's only one, maybe two places in the book where Lantern Archons are brought up again, and this is actually really helpful because it goes into how the PC's best friends are the helpful Lantern Archons that may appear throughout the dungeon. Key word there, may. They're really not listed throughout. But, like it says, they're the best friends of the PCs. There are very, very few friendly encounters in this product. And I use this blurb about the Lantern Archons to be like, hey, like, here's this entity that actually has the information that the DM can't give to the players. And even though it doesn't really have a good reason to be giving all the players too much information, like if they ask it certain questions, like it can just answer them. Like it's okay. They're supposed to know everything about their region. So they can do that. A little bit here, a little bit there, It doesn't make sense to like read this page 4 history about millennia ago, etc., etc. Like why would the Lantern Archon be just chattering on about that? I don't like it. But as a friendly PC to break up the monotony of all these things hate us for no reason kind of combat, I think it's really useful. And I'm glad that that little blurb was there. It The one caveat is that it's a little silly that all of the Lantern Archons believe that Region O is the only exit to the dungeon, given that Region O is not actually part of the dungeon. So that doesn't really make sense. But I'll let it go. It's okay. Then there's a whole bunch about the dungeon environment, traps, sound, light, etc. And I kind of just hand waved that away when I was doing it. And I really think that's what you should do. I mean, obviously you can keep the traps. I may not like hand wave the traps, but the fact that the majority of the dungeon is just dark and not all the PCs are going to have dark vision, etc., you can just kind of forget. Like that's a level of micromanagement that is not needed on a campaign scale like this. It just gets annoying like very quickly in the campaign. I was just like, yeah, whatever, you can all see. I don't care. It's just unnecessary, very unnecessary. There are so few places where not that the room is big enough, there are lots of huge rooms, but that it would make a difference if the PCs have light sources or not. Given that, they're going to have something, like it doesn't really matter if it's dark vision or a lantern, a magical light source, like it just doesn't matter. Like they're going to be able to see because whatever it is, it's going to close in on you so quickly or already be in your face that the fact that the whole thing is dark is more of an atmospheric touch than a mechanical aspect to what's going on. And how long is the section on light? It's just a few paragraphs on sight. It would have been better off just forget about it. We already have rules for that. Doesn't need to be brought up. We get it. It's dark. Just let the campaign be the way it is. Let the DM decide if it's dark or not. I think that was a mistake getting into that. That's just me. I think a large part of it is the fact that it's like demons, devils, whatever they can see in the dark. Who cares? But no, just forget about it. The next section, though, is about doors and walls, and I think they do a good job with that, other than the fact that the walls are just, no, you can't break them. Like, forget about it. You can't break it. That's it. Like, Again, I get it. It's prison. They're supposed to be, housing things. If the things can pound at it for all eternity, they'll break out. So no, you can't. Fine. Just accept it. Arbitrary rule. There are a bunch of them in here. I'll get into more later, but like, just hand wave it. Okay, fine. Fine. The doors, on the other hand, you can break through. Why aren't they invincible doors? I don't know. Why haven't the demons all busted down the doors? I don't know. Hand wave it. Didn't happen. Forget about it. Other than that, it's good that they have the rules for the doors. I like it. They describe them well. Easy to use. They're on the maps. It's good. I like it otherwise. Then they've got the randomized ceilings, which are not great. I guess it's better than putting ceiling height in literally every single room throughout the book and trying to have DMs adhere to it. But I mean, you can roll on a table to see how tall each room is. You do it once per region, section, or room. I think that the module or campaign is broken down well by groups. They group like rooms 12 through 23. And I think that it would probably work best, with some exceptions, if you just did by section like that. One of the problems for me is that I just forget stuff like that. I just blatantly forget. Like that's the room I just not even when I have somebody who can fly, I just forget. So rarely I would be like, I'd have somebody ask me like, "How tall is this room?" I'd be like, "Oh, well, let's find out," and I roll for it. Um, so I guess that could have been a little cleaner, but that's all right. Then one of the biggest issues that I have with it as a whole is the teleportation and extra dimensional travel section. So basically just doesn't work. Doesn't work. I'm not saying that the rules don't work. I'm saying that the teleportation just doesn't work. And it affects a lot of things, not just the teleport spell. It affects all the things. I think there's another section, sidebar, devoted to summoning and how summoning doesn't work. And I should probably just hold off until I find it. But now there is summon monster and demonic summoning. So the way they suggest this working is that you can summon them in and then they don't teleport out, which probably isn't a great thing. But the description they have here is somebody like a player, like a hypothetical player saying, "I can spend 14 days summoning badgers for the big battle, right?" And they go and say that it's game breaking. Like, yeah, well, maybe you should have come up with a more specific cancellation. Like, maybe specifically cancel the spells and psionics of like teleport and plane shift, and rather than just completely wiping out teleportation, because like it affects other things, like not just the summons and the demon summoning and everything, which they say they can do, and then they're just stuck there. But like dimension door, basically anything that's marked as using the astral plane, I think is how they spells like dimension door if allowed. Only work to a line of sight of 100 feet. Excuse me, they do allow that one. Okay, but things like bags of holding, portable holes, they lose their link and just function as regular bags. So, inevitably, there are other things that this affects that they just didn't label here, and it'll come up when you get to higher level. It will come up, and it's frustrating. It's one of those things that, you know, you can be upfront with the players and tell them that in advance, but people are going to forget. They're going to forget. They're starting at level 1. You go levels and levels and levels before you get access to this sort of thing. And then you find like, oh yeah, like I can cast these spells. I'm going to learn these spells or whatever. And then either you forget, and then you have to pick a new spell, or you just have to think about like, man, like I can't use this spell. And I don't like it. I don't like it, even if it is an important mechanical aspect to the campaign functioning. Because otherwise, sure, like, yeah, all the demon spells are like, peace out. Anything that can plane shift, peace out. I get it. Doesn't make it any better though. Then, XP, there's obviously some notes about the fact that there are way too many encounters to not use milestone because you level up like crazy. So when I did the campaign, I did milestone leveling. I just kind of did it when it felt like a good time to do it, because there is no definitive route through the dungeons, regions. There's you can go anywhere, pretty much anywhere at any time. And my party definitely did take a route that they should not have multiple times. They hit areas with significantly stronger enemies than them, almost party wiped once because of that. Maybe more than once. There was one that really stood out. Um, I'll get to that later though. And I think that they're right about doing the milestone leveling here. I think that is another strong point of their arbitrary rules being like, no, 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 no. Don't hand out XP. Don't do that. It's like, yeah, okay. I can see that. Yeah, moving on. They've got some ideas for getting in, which are fine. I mean, I don't think getting in is a problem, especially if you tell people, like, hey, we're running this. Like, people are just going to be like, whatever, we're going in. It's like, yeah, fine. But no, if you feel like you can't come up with something, there's a good random table there for it. Uh, let's see. The basic overview. Yeah, we're moving on. Oh, and then it gets into. I shouldn't be laughing. It gets into reading the encounters and the encounter conditions. The encounter conditions are hot garbage. Um, if you're going to ignore one thing throughout this book, it is the encounter conditions. They are very poorly done. I think that this might be a good time to flip to the back to read what is almost certainly one of the most relevant pieces here. Let's see. So this is from Jim Pinto. This is legit in the designer's notes. I'm not going to read the whole designer's notes. I'm just going to read this one little excerpt, which I'm not taking out of context, mind you. He writes a bunch, and then asterisk, 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 new paragraph. Okay? Jim Pinto. I've read the majority of the text at least twice, and this book is about as good anything I ever do is going to get. This is my magnum opus. If you're waiting for me to write the world's largest dwarven beach party, you'd better pack a lunch. Okay, so why did I say this now? I held off on that to now because the encounter conditions are mechanically very important. They modify many encounters. I should have counted how many encounter conditions are, but I mean, it's more than a page worth of them, and each one has its own little paragraph, sometimes only a line, but many of them a paragraph. Things like the room is desecrated. It strongly affects turn resistance. Deep darkness, vision, cover, concealment. So many, poor footing. There's so many of these things that seriously affect how the combat is going to go. And then when you actually look at the text, it's missing a modifier. Like, I'll just pick one at random. Poor footing X. Okay, poor footing X. All monsters and PCs suffer a penalty to their base attack equal to X unless they succeed at a reflex save, DC 10 plus X. There are rooms that will just say poor footing. Okay, so what was the intent there? Is this supposed to be a really hard encounter? Like, poor footing 5. Like, oh my gosh, like, oh, there's so much rubble. Like, you really have to try hard to, like, do this level 1. Like, oh my gosh. Or is it like, poor footing 1? Like, oh, it's just a little bit of debris. Like, it should be fine. Like, go fight your dark manals, what have you. Like, it's not one room. It's not just poor footing. It's like this for so many things. I'll just blaze through all the ones that have the X after it. Like, let's see. You've got cursed X, desecration X, diseased X, distracting noises X, distracting visions X, echoes X, fear X, fog X, hallowed X, hazardous footing X, poor footing X, spell resistance X, tremors X, unhallowed X. That was a lot of things I just read off. All of those should have a modifier after it, and they don't. And I will point out some of them along the way, but it's going to get repetitive because it's really, really frequent to not have that. And occasionally, there are contradictory ones, like maybe a room is silenced, but distracting noises is listed there. Like, thanks. Or, what's another one? That's all right. I'll move on. I'll wait for specific ones. But that's the gist of it. Like, the encounter conditions are the least well edited part of the book, and it is literally throughout it, and it's aggravating. I'll move on. Some of the sidebars that have arbitrary rules, like I mentioned already, arbitrary, right? The skills, man. Oh, yeah, here we go. The skills sidebar. Here are a list of skills that we generally believe you'll need high marks in to survive this dungeon. Now you're thinking, you're reading this DM, you're like, oh, good, I can relay this to my players when they're doing character generation. Keep that in mind, right? Okay, here we go. Balance. Okay, so the first thing that you should know about this, there is no verticality in this product. The entire dungeon is one level. One level. So, balance. Okay. Balance is good, I guess. Concentration. If you're a spellcaster, well, yeah, I mean, you didn't really need to put that. If you're a spellcaster, you're already going to take concentration. That's okay. Decipher script, no. No. You know how frequently decipher script comes into play? Super rarely. Even here, if it happens, it's not going to be like, oh, you could have taken that exit if only you had decipher script. No, it's not going to happen. Diplomacy, what? No, everything is out to get you. There are times when it says diplomacy doesn't even work. Why would you recommend taking diplomacy? Like, okay, let's say that, I don't know, 4 friendly encounters in all of region A need diplomacy. Okay, so like you're looking at one region. Maybe it's good if you find those encounters and you roll well at level like 1 or 2. Like, it's not worth telling someone to take diplomacy in a product called the world's largest dungeon with the premise that it has every monster in the SRD in it. What, you gonna be like talking to those undead? Yeah, that's what you're gonna do? No. Disable device. Easily the most important skill. Okay, so that one, yeah. If you have a rogue, yeah, okay. That could be a pretty important skill. There are a lot of traps. A lot of traps. Maybe you shouldn't be having someone sticking their face in the traps. There are other ways to set off the traps, but all right, that's the route you want to do. Sure. Heal. In all the years I've played, I don't know how frequently heal has come up, but infrequently. Hide and move silently. I'm just gonna say together. It's like, yeah, that makes sense. Any campaign that's like combat oriented, you probably want hide and move silently. I can agree with that. Intimidate. Again, everything's already out to kill you. Like, intimidate is probably not the route you're gonna take with these things. Jump. Again, one level. One level. The whole 1600 plus encounters, whatever they claim, one level. What are you jumping over? When are you jumping? Like, there are pits. There are, but you're not going to jump over them. Like, oh yeah, the one PC took jump, but no one else did. Like, you go. We'll wait for you. No, not helpful. Listen, maybe a little bit. I guess I could see that. Open lock, the second most important skill. All right, if your only way to open locks is someone with open lock, you're gonna have a bad time. That's all I'm saying there. Search, yes, you definitely want to search. The problem there, and I'll point these out when I come across them. I'm not gonna see every single one, but they have incredibly, stupidly high DCs, like a DC 35 to like find a rock that then has a DC 40 hidden compartment under it. Like, there's a difference between a skill being important and a skill being nullified by absurdly high DCs. And I'm not talking about like the final region where you're going to be hopefully level 16. No, I'm talking about things like the specific one I'm referring to. Shoot, which oh man, where was that? I'm now blanking. I think it was in region C, which is level 7 and 9. So you're talking about a double search check in the 30s to 40. Like, no. Just no. And it's not an isolated incident. It's just the one that came to mind. And then speak language, and it lists a bunch of them. It's like, yeah, I guess. I mean, I guess Undercommon, Goblin, Draconic, and Celestial are a good start, it says. Like, if you're going into a Celestial prison, yeah, Celestial makes sense. And then the rest, I don't know, because like, again, all the monsters in the SRD, right? So is it really, can you really say, like, Undercommon, Goblin, Draconic? I mean, I guess uh, if you start in Region A and you don't expect to get past it because it's a terrible product, oh, I gotta stop. Spellcraft, always, if you're a spellcaster, you're gonna take Spellcraft, obviously. You gotta take Spellcraft. And then Spot, honestly, I actually don't think Spot is great here. Um, I mean, opposed to hide, things hide. I don't remember my party having a whole lot of spot checks, and I love spot checks, but I suppose just because it's combat and things are going to hide. I just don't offhand think of that. And then survival, like, please, please. If you actually do this campaign, the amount of micromanagement in telling them they have to make survival checks would be stupid. Like, no. Absolutely not. Survival, no. And then I love this. It says swim, depending on the route they take. Oh my gosh. Like, this is gonna be spoilers in case like it wasn't obvious that I'm spoiling everything from the start. There's like one massive area with water, right? Yeah, might might say two, but one massive water area, right? If your only method is swim checks to get through that, and the party decides to do it, all dead. I don't care if you've put every point into swim, dead. That is one of the worst points of advice in here. Just no. I'll no comment on that until the water section. Tumble's always good if you're a tumbler. Okay, that's fine. And use rope. I have no idea why use rope is there. I none. I don't know what they were thinking with that. Um, none. And then they say the following skills should help the PCs in general. I love it. In parentheses, in general. Survive the dungeon in style. Craft, handle animal, sense motive, use magic device. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. I just I'm trying to think of where to even start on those, and I just don't. I just moving on. Skills like disguise, forgery, gather information, perform profession, ride, and sleight of hand are more suited for the world's largest city, and we have no use in the product for this. Encourage new PCs to avoid wasting points and needs. I love how they plugged their other product right there, and at the same time like pooped all over non-combat things. Like nah, they can't disguise themselves as goblins and try to avoid combat. Like they can't forge documents and convince the goblins or bugbears that they're not a-holes. Nope. No, no, no. They can't gather information with the small number of PCs that are actually friendly. No. No bards allowed. Don't put perform like, what's a bard? They just poop all over all those things. Like, all right, that's cool. That's cool. And I don't know. Like, all right, last one. Last one. Are they connecting ride and the world's largest? I don't think the world's largest city has a whole like section on riding. But all right. I digress. Okay. They do have a lot of these little comments that I feel like were short-sighted. Like, because nobody's heard of the world's largest dungeon until now, bardic lore isn't going to help much. No, I don't know any songs about demon princes banished to the abyss for slaying everything living fire elf. I've never even heard of fire elves. Can I just sing my song now, please? Really? Again, pooping all over a class. It's not the only one that they do, don't worry. I haven't even gotten to druids and wizards yet. Although, perfect segue here, wizards, that's part of this sidebar. They squish two things into this sidebar, skills and spellbooks. Wizards do not have it easy in this dungeon. No, that's not strong enough. Wizards get hosed, and hosed is in italics. That's how they had to express that. So, before I even go further with this, I will say that there is a spellbook in this dungeon that has literally every single necromancy spell ever created. But wizards get hosed. So that's some cognitive dissonance happening there. Wizards get hosed. There's a spell book with literally every single necromancy spell ever created. So that book, if the PCs get it and have a wizard, like they could just find a safe haven, chill for a while, and learn friggin' everything they want. I mean, they could. And look, DM Fiat here, DM Fiat, how you pronounce it. you could say that, like, oh, there was once a necromancy spell that provided, +4 shield AC, +4 armor AC. It could have happened. It ever created. Like, throw the party a bone here, but no. Instead of taking a friendly route with that concept, nope, wizards get hosed. Anyway, continuing on with what their thought process was here on wizards. Okay. Basically, because they don't leave and go to town and use their special inks, there's no justification for new spells appearing, in quotation marks, appearing in their spell books. Sorcerers, druids, and clerics all draw their power from a less tangible source, but a wizard has no new sources of magic. So rather than just being like, hey, DM, just let them get new spells, they're going to be in the dungeon. No, we're going to take a logical approach and say, they can't get new spells, curses. Instead, and this is again what they wrote, there are plenty of scrolls scattered throughout every region. What? No. No, there aren't. Maybe you wrote that and then planned to sprinkle all the spells. You didn't. You didn't do that. Some of them are hidden. Some of them are trapped and get burned up before the players even get to them. No, that's not true. Don't tell the DM that on page 12 of 840. That's not the case. So, probably many times that they wrote something in advance and it didn't follow through. That's one. That is one I do not like. And for what it's worth, the scrolls that are there from memory, they're not good spells. They're not what you want. So, good luck, one, finding them, and two, finding a spell that's useful. It does have, after that, in parentheses, and plenty of room for the DM to drop them into the dungeon as he sees fit, which is what I did. It's like, yeah, okay, here, just take them. Just take them. I'm pretty sure at least multiple points I was just like, whatever spell you want is on that scroll. Make it 2. Because I did have a wizard in my party. Because this may upset those wanting to play spellcasters, there are a number of ways to help wizards through this. That was the preface before the comment about plenty of room for the DM to drop those in. So another alternate method here that they have is that the DM can allow wizards to start with a full spellbook as a 20th level wizard, forcing the fledgling wizard to choose all of his spells ahead of time. This is challenging, but can also put a wizard who is unprepared for specific challenges at a huge disadvantage. Yeah, it could, because that's a terrible idea. And also, like, if you're going to stick to, like, a regular spellbook, you can't fit 20 levels worth of spells in one spellbook, buddy. You're ignoring the spellbook rules there. So, lots of contradictory annoying stuff in here. I like that they say, finally, the DM can simply allow the PC to choose whichever spells he likes as he goes up in level. Like, yeah, the way you should. Like, literally every other campaign ever does. This is the least exciting method, but gives PCs the greatest spread of options. Well, maybe that should just be the default then. The default rules instead of your arbitrary nonsense. And then here's one thing that people like to poop on. One last thing. Spells like Entangle and Web are devastatingly powerful in a dungeon. We've made sure the bad guys don't have them. DMs should do the same with the PCs. And then there is an NPC in the first region that has Web in the spellbook. I get it. Again, they didn't look ahead. Someone wrote this and didn't follow through. But as the DM, I mean, you can just be like, all right, I won't use that. But in actuality, they're not devastatingly powerful. Have you ever played a campaign and had a level 1 druid cast Entangle? That can be devastatingly powerful. Having very limited resources in a dungeon crawl, not devastatingly powerful. Oh, sure, like, we took out that room of goblins because we entangled them or webbed them or whatever. How about the next 12 rooms filled with orcs and goblins? Like, you gonna do that 12 times? Not unless the DM lets you rest, like, all the time, which is not an easy thing if you actually play it the way the campaign intends you to play it. But I haven't gotten to resting yet. I'm not sure if they actually have a sidebar for that one. That might just be, this place isn't safe. You can rest. Nudge, nudge. You're going to get beat up, though. They've got random encounters here. Interesting. I don't actually recognize this random encounter table. Random encounter conditions. You just slap that onto one of the random encounters. I don't remember that. That's fun. Unnecessary. Because each section has its own random encounter table. You kind of have to make note of where it is because you have to flip back to it a lot, which I found annoying, but I did. I totally forgot about this though. It just slaps on encounters onto the encounters. Like let's say you in region A, for example, you rolled an encounter that had dark mantles. Then if you rolled on this random encounter condition, it could say make them chasing something or friendly. Hmm. Interesting. Friendly or indifferent, hostile, etc. Anyway, there's a little section here called making it work. It's all about the fun. What they don't say is that it's up to the DM to do all the work. Because this book, look, I'm pooping all over this book, right? I'm just tearing it to shreds, ripping it a new a-hole, etc. But I enjoyed it. I did all the work. It's a great skeleton of a campaign, a great skeleton of a dungeon, and I ripped it apart and I made it my own like I do, and I had a lot of fun with it. My players had a lot of fun with it. But man, when it says making it work and they don't say that it's all on you, it is, as the DM, it's all on you. But I made it work, and I'm going to get into it now. So map 0, okay, this is what happens before it happens, and there's a bunch of nothing, basically. It's kind of like you just get into it. So you use the prior page, 2 pages ago, 2 pages ago. You use that getting in section, and you kind of mesh it with this map 0, which doesn't have a map. So it's funny that they call it map 0, considering that the rest of them are letters, not numbers. This one's map 0. It really only has this one, 2 encounters. One is the Titan, the dead Titan, that is basically useless. It has a +5 halberd and a +5 chain shirt, but they're both huge and gargantuan and not much use to the PCs, even if they were able to carry them. Like, okay, so it's a gargantuan halberd, like, pretty sure the PCs could bring that with them if they really wanted to, but no, they couldn't. They couldn't possibly do it. Nope. And then they're supposed to, the party is supposed to somehow remember this featureless, seemingly pointless dead Titan through 16 regions all the way to the end when they leave and they have the final encounter of the campaign. Again, in case you didn't realize I'm spoiling it. There's another Titan who's still alive. Oh, it was his brother. Remember that all along? Oh, we should tell him about the dead Titan so he can go avenge him. No, you're not gonna remember. It's like the very start. There's nothing here. It is not memorable at all. There are some notes blowing in the wind that have nothing of value written on them. Their exact details can't be ascertained. The language they're written in is long dead. No one can cast like with tongues or anything like no. Anyway, language is long dead. Nothing of note here. Just the body of the Titan and then tunnels down into it. That's it. So yeah, I'm not gonna remember that. And then what's a little weird, like you'd think that after that they'd begin the book, like region, like it feels right? Map 0, they start it, but no. Then it immediately cuts back to random thoughts, which I never liked. It doesn't feel right having that where it is. It should be the last thing before region A. But then it gets into exits. And like, wait, what? Like, why are we going into random comprehend languages? Yes, I couldn't think of comprehend languages. You got it. I knew tongues was not right. I said it anyway. Okay, you got me. Comprehend languages. So they get into the exits here, and like, yes, it's a good thing to continue all your random thoughts, but like, why? Why? So anyway, editorial. The editorial side of it bugs the crap out of me. So they do mention the exits, which are just good for the DM to keep in mind. I get it, Not super important because when you are the DM, you kind of need to know what's coming, so you should really always be reading ahead. So like if they're in A, you should kind of also read B and E, just so you know what's coming. But um, they do mention the exits are basically spoilers again. I'm going to stop saying that now. We know where I'm spoiling everything. In region D, you're basically out. You're out already. D is outside of the original prison. So to just claim that there are tunnels leading off the map, whatever. I mean, I'd say like pretty much all of the external regions are basically the exits. Maybe not all of them. At least half of them probably are. But they're specifically talking about tunnels in region D, which, all right, I could see that. And then it also says region H, which really is the exit. Like, supposedly O is the exit, which is, the final, the finale of it. But no, region H, when the parties get to region H, that's like, we're out. And I know I'm talking about this because I know it, and I haven't described these regions to you, so you don't if you're not familiar with it. So I'm kind of apologize for that. I'll get there. But basically, region H, they can see the sky. Like, at that point, any means of going up, they can get out. How did my party get out? I feel like they didn't leave uh, when they first arrived in H. They kept going. I wonder if they came back and flew out. I don't remember now. I'm gonna have to go back and figure out and ask somebody. I'm surprised I can't remember where they left. Anyway, then there's region L, which is the water region, and the only comment about this, how far to the east the lake extends is up to the DM. Perhaps it's another 100 feet, or perhaps rivulets extend for miles underground to another dungeon entirely. Because that's what I want to do. I want to have my party swim to another dungeon. That sounds like a great plan. No, you get out, you're good. Then there's region M, which, again, M is just cave adjacent to the prison. That's not the dungeon anymore. That's, yep, we made it. Gotta go. And then N, same thing. N is the undead tomb north of the dungeon, not really part of the dungeon proper. So if you don't enter the tomb at these massive scary doors that are like clearly warding you out, if you're just like, hey, I'm gonna walk around the dungeon, you're out of the dungeon. Just like that. It's just like that. And then O, it claims O is the obvious exit. I'm gonna say no. I'm gonna say no to that. It's not the dungeon proper, so it looks like cave and everything, but like region H is the obvious exit. There's sky. They can see the sun. Like that's the exit. But that's okay. We'll let that go. It does say that the ceiling is open above region H, which I mentioned, but also K and L, which is interesting. I don't remember it being open in K. L I could see. L is that water area. Oh, K is the other water. Oh, because it all caved in. Okay, no, that makes sense. K, L, and H are all right together there. I could see that. So the PCs can escape from these locations if they are so inclined. And you better believe they'll be inclined. Alright, and then you think, okay, we're good. They've talked about getting in. They talked about getting out. We're going to start the campaign. Nope. More random thoughts. Like, all right, editorial. Then they talk about the lava flow, which, why? Like, no. Like, I get that the lava flow goes through multiple regions. It kind of goes from M to diagonally to J to diagonally to G to diagonally to D. So it's in 4 regions. So you could put it there, but they reprinted the stats for every enemy. They have the stats for the rats and the dark mantles, the sturges, dozens of times. They couldn't be bothered to put how the lava works in 4 places? I don't know. That bugs me. That bugs the crap out of me. There's no reason to put the lava flow here. The party's not going to see the lava flow for... I mean, at best, they'll see it in 3 regions. It'll take them 3 regions to find the lava. And even then, it's the end of that region. You're not likely to see it there. Like, it's probably going to be 4 regions worth of delving before you see lava. But for some reason, lava flow is there. And I don't like it. I don't like it. That's okay. That's where they have the summon monster stuff, which I already touched on. And now druids. This is how druids get hosed. You thought the wizards were the ones getting hosed? Here's what they have to say about druids. They at least, like, allow, quote, allow, unquote, the players to be wizards. But they'll start the section on druids with this. If you think wizards have it bad in the dungeon, imagine communing with nature. With the exception of regions H, K, and L, and maybe region O. Okay, so look, I gotta interrupt there. You just mentioned literally a quarter of the campaign, and you're trying to poop all over druids. You literally just mentioned a quarter as being able to commune with nature. Like, come on, man, that's a huge section of it. Why are you pooping on? Anyway, there isn't much for druids to do. Okay. Okay. I see where their lack of system mastery, you know, trying to guess what is going to happen is doing to their product, but like, please, a druid would be okay. All right, there's plenty a druid can do. And then they go, sure, they could cast bark skin and have limited healing powers, but what are the odds of finding an animal companion underground? Dude, 1,600 plus encounters, every monster in the SRD. You're telling me there are no animals? You're telling me the DM can't be like, yeah, you find an animal. There's everything else in there. Why wouldn't they be able to find it? Arbitrary. Just arbitrary. They keep going, though. They keep going. It's a small box. I'm almost done. But we could dance around the point, but instead, we recommend that DMs simply ban druid PCs, because that's the best way to handle it, right? After all, it's called the world's largest dungeon. You knew the score when you bought it. We won't apologize for its shortage of picnic areas. The final, however, decision rests in your hands. I'm just gonna say that's a weird sentence. Like, I don't know why however was in the middle there, but yeah, the final decision is up to the DM. And I think if I had to pick one section that's too arbitrary to like, I'm losing it. I'm losing it. I couldn't keep a straight face through that. Like, it would be the druid section. I didn't have a druid PC. I probably warned them about that. And with like the caveat that like, yeah, but it'll still work. Um, oh my gosh, but that's just too funny. We have a drink here. One moment. I guess I should talk about my party a little bit, just to give you like the background of my experience with it. I think I had 7 PCs to start. Then it became 6. I feel like it bounced back and forth between 5 and 6. We lasted almost 2 years, I think. I'm not gonna be able to remember them all now, am I? I had one person. He dropped out real quick that was using Pathfinder rules. It's the only time I've ever allowed anybody to use Pathfinder rules in any of my games, but I don't know, for some reason I did there. So he was some class that I wasn't familiar with. And then there was a Crusader, Wizard, a Cleric, a Rogue multi-class. I forget all the things he had. And a Warlock. I believe those were the primary. Oh, and a second Initiator. I think Warblade. Yeah, and Warblade. So those were the main characters. So like, it was a decent party. It wasn't, wasn't like True Namers or some like, terrible classes. Like, they could all hold their own pretty much. It was a very useful combination of classes. So yeah, so I experienced a competent party. They were probably on the higher side of optimization as well. Most of them, a couple of them were not. So they did very well throughout the campaign. No druids though. And then after that section, it gets into W1 through W20, empty rooms. And it's kind of strange having this here. It says, though not technically a section, all 20 of these empty rooms can be used anywhere in the dungeon and are printed here together for convenience. While nearly every square foot of dungeon has been thoroughly mapped and detailed, every DM will find that he wants just one more detail. These rooms are here for that reason and should be used at the DM's discretion. So, they have empty rooms throughout the dungeon. So I do think it's a little strange that they bothered with this. Like, they describe empty rooms later on. I mean, oh man, I already found an encounter condition missing an X. I'm gonna go back to the page. Haunted. Oh, it was Hallowed. Okay, no, it was a different H. No, it's okay. It's all good. They got it. They're good. Yeah, just random rooms for no reason, really. There are rooms in the dungeon on the maps that are not numbered. There's no description for them at all. So you could use these there. But more likely, at that point, the DM will be exhausted and be like, no, it's empty. Carry on. There's no room there. What are you talking about? So, but if for some reason you felt like you needed more, there are 20 empty rooms with descriptions and traps. That's a fireball trap. They're great. I couldn't come up with that on my own. That was good. I needed that empty room with a fireball trap printed to come up with that. Thank you for that. And then there's another sidebar here for tracking, and I didn't mention it yet, but this was printed in 04. I just offhandedly mentioned their lack of system mastery. It is very obvious that there was a lack of system mastery throughout the product. And I would argue that because you lack system mastery, you should not be creating a product. You should not be creating an 840-page product. You should not be creating a product that claims to have every monster in the SRD. But they did. And there's a little bit here about tracking that feels bad, man, because they reference 3.0. And the way they do it is dumb. So they talk about tracking being a tricky proposition because there are no tracks, because it's a stone floor, and there's nowhere for them to use survival checks. You just told us we need survival skills. Survive the dungeon. Survival. Oh no, wait, here. Tracking. No, you're not gonna use survival for that. What are we using survival for then, man? It's a dungeon. There's not gonna be bushes for us to survive food off of. So anyway, and then they bother to mention wilderness lore for the 3.0 crowd. What? Like, why? Like, why would you even mention that? It's just a weird thing to say. It just doesn't seem relevant to anything. Anyway, who tracks? Does anyone track? Do people do that in their campaigns? They use tracking? I mean, I guess you could. I don't know. I feel like tracking is just not a thing that ever happens. Maybe it's just my campaigns, but they talk about that for 4 paragraphs about how hard tracking is. I mean, I'm just like mentally running through rooms and what would the party be tracking? Why would they be tracking anything? Like, you don't know where you are. You don't know where you're going. You don't have anyone to talk to. What are you anything you come across, you kill or get killed from. So, I'm not even going to go over the rest of that. Right after the empty rooms, map V. I want to call it map 5. Just Roman numerals get me. But no, it's map V. And it's the vampire tomb. And this angers me so much that they put this here and not in the region where it exists. So the only location that exists under the dungeon, I did say before, everything's on one layer, you got me, this one's under it, is a vampire tomb in Region J. Why isn't this printed in Region J? You know what happens when you, as the DM, go through Region J? You forget that they printed this on page 19, and you don't have the players ever do it. That's what happens. And honestly, that's fine. That's fine. It is a stupid encounter. I think I'll save that for Region J. I don't think I'll forget, even though they printed it here. Okay. So actually, I thought it was printed here. I'm not seeing the rest of it. So maybe it is printed in Region J. But there's just no need to note that, I guess. That's what irks me. Anyway, then there's skill use. So this is the final arbitrary rule before we get into Region A. Final arbitrary rule. Here we go. Take 10 and take 20. System mastery, or lack thereof. Here we go. The rules for take 10 and take 20 have a positive and negative effect on Dungeons and Dragons. What? Excuse me? They're not claiming this product. They're claiming the game. What? Clearly you don't understand it. Like, I don't even need to read the rest of it to know. You don't know what you're talking about. So anyway, it continues. Rather than begin a philosophical debate that results in nothing but upset players and anxiety-ridden DMs, let us say this. The DCs in this dungeon are for DMs who do not allow take 10 and take 20 actions in their campaigns. What DMs don't allow take 10 and take 20 actions in their campaigns? And can I make sure that we take their books away? What? No one doesn't allow that. Why would you not allow it? That's it's just a core part. You do that. Moving on. That said, DMs who find PCs are able to open every lock, charm every monster, and beat every search check without rolling a single die have options. So I said arbitrary rules, right? You ready for this? You're not ready for this. If you don't know where I'm going with this, you're not ready for this. If you've read this already, you're already laughing because you know how terrible this gets. Oh, possibly the worst advice in the book right here. There are 8. They had to come up with 8 ways to torture the players. For no reason. 1. Increase all DCs by plus 10. Done. Remember that search check I was talking about? You're not going to have plus 40 to your search check by level 7. Like, you're never going to find that. Arbitrarily add 10 to everything. All DCs. Doesn't matter what it is. Everything. Great plan. Number 2. Increase the time it takes to take 10 or 20, and increase the frequency of random encounters. PCs that stay overnight opening a lock are in for 1 or 6 rude awakenings. Like, boom, right there. Proof they don't actually understand what take 10 and take 20 are. Like, I don't feel like explaining what they are because I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt that you understand it and how stupid that is. Moving on. Number 3. Rooms with specific encounter conditions are no place for intense concentration. PCs insisting on searching in these rooms are going to suffer penalties on their checks, ranging from -1 to -10. Like, you know what? Some of the encounter conditions, that might actually be reasonable. Like if it's haunted, or echoes, etc. Like, yeah, all right. I could see that. The reason for doing it is awful. Oh, the PCs are doing so well, I have to inflict penalties on them. No, that's not why you do it. You do it because it makes sense atmospherically, right? Like, the room is haunted and it's got echoes. Like, ooh, why are these echoes happening? Like, it's just baked into that room in the prison. It's just like that now, forever. Oh, and it's hard to search, it's hard to hear. Like, no, that's fine. Not, oh, god damn it, the fucking rogue found another search check. -10 to your search check. No, that's a terrible reason. Don't do that. Number 4. Require a concentration check to take 10 or 20. Like, talk about arbitrary. Like, it goes on. No one has infinite patience, and continuing to look for the proverbial needle in the haystack is going to tax the characters, no matter what the players think. That's right, you, the DM, you know better. You know better than what those stupid players think. Number 5. Limit the number of take 10 and 20 actions on a map to 3 and 1 respectively. What? That's... what? Have you held the maps? Do you know how big they are? Do you know how terrible that advice is? This is a fair compromise and confirms for the players that DM is not a tyrant. They wrote that. That's actually there on the page in front of me. They wrote that. Number 6. If the PCs do find every trap, Make the ones they don't find very deadly. Like, I could just picture whoever wrote that giggling to themselves like they're so clever. I, I don't even want to comment on that one further. I'm going to get upset. Number 7. If the PCs can take 10 or 20, the monsters can start carrying deadlier weapons with better critical hit ranges and multipliers. Like, look, if you want to run a campaign that's player versus DM, that's you, man. That's you. Advising other random people that are playing your product to do that, that's pretty bad advice. That's pretty bad advice. And I will say, if you adhere to number 7 there, guess what happens when the players kill those things with the better weapons? They get them, and then they have them, and they're going to use them. So unless you're prepared to just lie to your players after they've been critted on like a 16 for some reason, and that they can't do that, that's going to be an interesting conversation. You might not have those players for very long. Although, if you're adhering to these pieces of advice, you're already probably not going to have your players for very long. But here's the best one. They saved the best for last. 8. Not only is it number 8, after number 8, they started by typing out the word 8 for some reason. So it's 8, 8. I have no explanation there. Succeeding at everything is boring. Just say no. Yeah, isn't that nice? Your players are so good at finding the traps. No, you didn't find that trap. I rolled a nat 20. It was 70. No, you didn't find it. You didn't find it. You can't find that one. Yeah, you're dead. Like, what? Succeeding at everything is boring? Really? Like, did they ever play a game? Not D&D, like any game. You ever had fun before? You know, succeed? All right, moving on. Finally, Region A. Longtail's Destiny. I like the subtitles for each region. Like, they're all, region, letter, and then subtitle. Longtail's Destiny. And then it goes into all this stuff about how the region came to be. And there's no way for the players to get that information. I know I said that I wasn't going to harp on that too much. But like this one in particular, like this is where you're going to start. This is where the campaign begins. Region A. They couldn't do a better job having a section where they could relay like just this one. So screw the other 15, okay? Whatever. Hook them, man. Do it. Put the effort in. Like everything that happens in this region has already happened. Region A is all about the consequences of what Longtail did. There's no way, none of it, nothing. The whole time, nothing. Okay, you finally get to Longtail, and it's just combat. He initiates the combat. He knows you're there, and he's already prepared to spell. He comes at you, guns loaded, firing. Okay, the one person that knows the whole story and potentially, from the DM's point of view, could talk. Nope. Guns drawn, full-fledged hostile, done deal. There are other PCs that came with him. Their minds are shattered. They're already hostile. They like don't understand why they came here because Longtail did not tell them. Stupid garbage. This is the guy. Everything failed for him. He's a miserable, broken shell of a war rat. He could easily be like, oh my gosh, like, look at this competent party here. Maybe if I, like, tell them what happened and I was wrong, I'm sorry, redeem me, please, I'll help you get out. It would have been a very interesting NPC. He's a sorcerer, he's a war rat. Like, that could have been the guy, man. That's the NPC that didn't happen. A wasted, just entirely wasted NPC, wasted story. It's Region A. It's the start of the campaign, and they botched it straight up botched it. Um, and I'm not even going to get into the whole thing. He basically just brought all the goblinoids into the dungeon because his imp familiar told him to, basically. His imp familiar is being controlled by some other demon and is trying to be released from the prison. That's the whole thing, okay? That's it. And you're not going to find out any of it. You, there's no reason to. There's no way to. There's no guessing that. There's no way the party is going to be like, I bet that there's some, outside of the dungeon demon coming into this dungeon that we don't know anything about, trying to release some other demon. Like, no, or devils. I think devils actually in this case, not demon, because that's clearly the most important part of this story. Um, like they have no idea, and it's one of many frustrations. Um, so moving on, because I could rail on that for another 10 minutes. Uh, on the second page of Region 8, the still first spread here, we've got the plot hooks. I'm pretty sure every region has plot hooks. Let me just flip ahead to some other arbitrary region here with. No, I guess they don't. What? Region D doesn't have plot hooks. Whoa. Hold on. Region C, back me up here. You got plot hooks? You don't have plot hooks? Holy crap. I thought they all did. Well, they all have an introductory section, at least, explaining what's going on. They do all explain the region. Apparently, plot hooks is just Region A. I'm going to take a quick look at this and see whether this is plot hooks for the campaign, which we've already seen. There was already a section in the intro for that. And, oh, look, they even mentioned that. The introduction presents a number of ways to get a party started. Yeah, they did. So what are you talking about? Oh, okay, okay. So here, now I remember. They're talking about a more specific way to get them in. I see. At that point, I feel like you've already decided on one as the DM. For me, I read through the plot hooks. Flip back to the list of plot hooks here. I read through this list of 20 here, and I picked one. I just picked number 13 here. The PCs wait out a storm in a nearby cave. Once inside, they discover the dungeon. I went with that. It worked well for me. It worked well for the party. So I didn't do anything of this Region A plot hook stuff where they try to use a more specific example with the ambitions of Longtail, and you're tracking Longtail. You're tracking the war rat into the dungeon. You could do that. I remember that now. Tracking the war rat in. But they also kind of don't really explain why you're tracking him. It's just like, oh, he committed some crime, and you're tracking him now. I'm like, yeah, let's do that. And I mean, you could do that. That's fine, but it doesn't work. And the reason it doesn't work is because Region A is done. It's over. Post-apocalyptic. Cataclysm happened. Region A is done. Everyone that Longtail brought in has splintered off into their own group. All the groups have claimed their territory. Okay? No one wants to talk to you. No one wants to talk to Longtail. Quite frankly, some of them are prepared to kill Longtail if they find him. They've come, they've found other leaders and things. Like, that plot hook makes no sense. Like, none whatsoever. If you're tracking him, it must have been like short-term tracking you're talking about. And this is not a short-term event here. He has opened a portal, or maybe the imp did, and has released these creatures. These creatures have killed boatloads of the goblinoids and others. They have staked their own claims in Region A. Like, this is not a short-term event. So that more specific plot hook doesn't even really work if you actually stop and think about it. Because then you do that, and you're going to have to be like, imagine telling your party you're tracking this rat or whatever. You do. Oh, yeah, fresh on his trail. Must have been like less than a week, whatever, since he was here, Hasn't rained. Fortunately, worked out for you, right? And then you go in and it's just death everywhere. Orcs' first room are so depressed from their situation, they don't even fight back if you try to kill them. Like, what? What time scale are we talking about here? Sounds more like a year has passed, not a week tracking, fresh footprints of these people going into. Again, no thought was put into this. This is like notes on a napkin that they then brought to their office and like, I'm going to put this verbatim in the final product instead of like actually thinking it through. Lack of system mastery. I gotta stop saying that, but yeah. Anyway, start of every region also has random encounters, which I think for the most part are fine. I don't have real complaints about random encounters. Um, Running the campaign, for me, random encounters didn't really happen. There are enough encounters already. It gets to that micromanaging level where it's just irritating to everyone to have one more encounter when they're trying to rest instead of just letting it move on. Like, you get your resources back, move on. Just do it. We don't need another series of dark mantle encounters. Thank you. There are enough of those. Just move on. It's fine. Um, every once in a while, long while, I use the random encounter tables. Maybe that's why I had to keep finding them because I wasn't using them very much. Um, in Region A, there are a good amount of them that are just tremors and non-combats. So that's good. Like 3 to 8 on this table of 20 is nothing. And that's good. That's good. Nothing. The random encounters are nothing. I like that. Oh, excuse me, I'm going to take another drink. Mm. But then, the 20, I don't know that it's always roll twice, but it feels bad, man, to have random encounters in a dungeon crawl of this size where you might then have even worse things happen on top of everything else that's happening. They're not necessary. I don't think random encounters are necessary in the in the concept of like, yes, the party understands their predicament and is going to only rest when they have in character determined that they can be safe to rest. Like, that shouldn't be put on the players to determine because it's that level of micromanaging that's just like, it's not fun anymore, right? Like, do we have to ask the DM if it's safe to rest every time? Like, no, that's not fun. So, like I mentioned earlier, like I really twist everything. I make it my own. I edit a lot. I go and I change encounters a lot. So I change rooms a lot. So like I made it so that it was easier to find places that they could just rest, and that's it. Like, forget about it. Like, you can rest now. Like, I didn't have them rest after every single encounter. That was more of like a gentleman's agreement kind of thing. But when it came time to rest, maybe after like the first couple levels or whatever, they had more resources and everything. It was just like, yeah, whatever. Like, party needs to rest. You backtrack a little bit. Like, you cleared out so many rooms and so much of the dungeon. Are things going to fill that void? Sure, things are going to fill that void. But it's been like 2 days. This dungeon has existed for millennia, right? It took millennia for all the things to happen that have happened. A week is not going to see some new faction take over a region. Like, they can rest where they want to rest. So, I in that regard, I don't like the random encounters. I don't think that there should be one an hour or more in some places. This region A says one an hour. I don't think that's necessary. I think that's punishing in an already punishing module. But enough about that. I should really open up the map here. So the maps actually are available online. I have my physical maps, but they are available online, which is nice. It's a good resource. Oh yeah, what's really neat is on this website where they're hosted. It has some maps that were edited to show different things. Really, only the early ones. Like clearly, whoever was doing these fun edits either campaign didn't go far, they just didn't feel like doing it. But like they've got labels for them, which is nice. In Region A, it has all of the headings circled. So, like I mentioned before, it breaks down the rooms into sections. Oh wow, the entrance actually doesn't have its own section. A1 is just A1, and then A2 through A20, Orc Stronghold. And then on this map, oh, they just put Orcs. They didn't call it Orc Stronghold. Did they screw that up with any others? I thought they did it correctly. Real quick, I'm just curious now. A22 to A24 Pilgrims. Yeah, Pilgrims. So I think they mostly got it right. The first one they didn't. Anyway, so it's fun. It's just fun to look at. And there's one in particular. I think it's B. Let me just double. Yeah. No, wait, that's not it. There's a really funny map online. I thought it was here. It's not. Oh, it might be that review that I've talked about on the Discord multiple times. The review of the World's Largest Land. It's just so funny. I've read it so many times. I laugh every single time I read it. But it's probably there, the map I'm thinking of, where they actually broke down the way Region B works with the factions, and it's real funny. I'll wait until I get there. I'm not gonna get there tonight. I'll save that for when I get to Region B and why it's funny. But A1, I love A1. I love it. I think it's another arbitrary rules moment. That's complete BS, but I love it anyway. And it's just doors that you can't see through when you open them. You can't see through them. You just open them. Nothing there. You can't see through. It doesn't matter if you have dark vision. Nothing. You can't see through it. If you put anything through it, you can't pull it back out. There's no explanation for it. That's just how it is. So, so you just have to dive in, and it sets the stage for the players in such a perfect way. I don't think the writers intended for it. I don't think they understood it. They didn't realize it. But like, you're in for it now, buddy. Like, are you in for this arbitrary rule-changing nonsense? Because guess what? You can stick your hand in there and you can't get it out. Now you have to go in. Ha 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 ha. And once you're in, you can't get out. The doorway can't be penetrated once you're in. It's just an opaque door barrier. It's magical. It's permanent. Can't be stopped. Ha 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 ha. And that's just the campaign in a nutshell right there. That's it right there. And I love it. I love that they set the stage that way. And I swear they didn't do it on purpose. I'm sure of it. But it's just so perfect. No amount of pulling brings the object back through the barrier. If enough force is used, the object could break or the hand severed. Oh, no. Love to know how many people have started this campaign with losing a hand. Like, I mean, my players were just like, oh, whatever, we go through it. It's like a nothing. Because they knew, like, we're doing this campaign. It's the World's Largest Land campaign. Like, they knew, so they just hop in. But if you don't tell them what's going, well, first of all, if you don't tell them what they're in for, then you're a terrible DM. No apologies, terrible DM. You probably use rule number 8 on that list I went over earlier. But it is kind of a funny thing to think about that. You would actually say, and your character pulls his hand so hard it comes off. Good luck. Like, the encounter condition here, I will say, is safe. Fun. Then we get into A2 through A20, which is the Orc Stronghold. Now, I think there's a better region to refer to as the Orc Stronghold. Just because the Orcs here don't have a stronghold. There are some miserable, depressed, lost the will to live orcs here in one room. That's it. So referring it to the DM as the Orc Stronghold, I think is a misnomer. Poorly thought out, should not have been done. Former Orc Stronghold could have worked. Ruined, invaded. Anything else. But there's like a section where the actual orcs are, and they have formed a stronghold there, and it's a pretty decent encounter. Like, they could wipe an unprepared party where they are. But here, there's like nothing going on. Anyway, it's a minor nitpick of mine. I'm probably making a bigger deal out of it than I need to. Uh, but but I'm the one talking, so you got it. You got my thoughts. Anyway, A2, the first room. I'm not gonna go over every room. I'm just this is how the campaign starts. I feel like it deserves the attention. So here we are, right? A2, second room, the first real room, right? Because the other one just getting in, what have you. You know, I'm not gonna say it's nothing. You probably for people not like my party that just like, yeah, we're here, let's go through, there's no way out. Um, it could be, some time, poking things into the darkness, wondering what's going on. But then once you get in, you're in that first room, there's torchlight. I think there's two orcs chilling at a table. Is it three? Two or three? They're fatigued orcs, three. It's three orc warriors. They're just sitting there in the darkness. Basically, nothing has any effect on them. It says any acts of intimidation, bluffing, or diplomacy fail. And it's like, yeah, great. Um, if you attack them, they can defend themselves. But I mean, they're already fatigued. They're not armed. Like they literally have weapons, but they're not prepared for it. So, like, of course, you're just gonna wipe them. It's a stupid first room. I don't like it. Um, I think it would have been better off that they were already dead by the Dark Mantles, like everything else in this place. Because you don't get anything out of them. Like, it's just a frustration for the PCs. Like, they're there, they come in, they see someone that they think they can talk to, and they don't talk back. They don't give you anything. Like there's a whole thing explaining this. Like, they don't give the party any information. And, like, talk about annoying from the player point of view. Like, we're here, we don't know where we are, we can't get out, we don't know what's going on. Here's some NPCs that aren't fighting us. I mean, at that point, they don't realize that literally everything is going to fight them. And, like, they won't talk, they're unfriendly. So, I think there are a lot of chances that are wasted. Um, you could, as the DM, change a lot, but presumably you don't want to change a lot. Like, I put a lot of effort into changing everything because I enjoy doing it. But I mean, the DMing is a lot of work, and a lot of the times you go into getting a modular campaign thinking that you're not going to have to do all that work, and you just kind of have to with this product. And man, this is just another one of those chances where, like, these orcs could have given the players a lot of information. There's no reason not to. Like I just said, the party's stuck now. They can't get through that magical barrier. They're here. They're here for the long haul. Why not just be like, yeah, all that great information we had on the first page of Region A, just give it to the players. Tell them all about Longtail. Tell them about how they got screwed over. These orcs are miserable. They're fatigued. They got nothing. They're not eating. Their comrades were killed by dark mantles and other dire rats and things. Like, go ahead. Tell the pieces all about it. Tell them how screwed they are. Instill them with fear instead of just sitting there listless, unable to do anything. Like they're defeated already, grunting at them. Like, come on, man. Like, how great would that have been to just have those orcs, these ash pale, weakened, dying from lack of food orcs, tell the players what they're in for and, like, laugh at them and fall down dead from, like, exerting themselves laughing. Like, that would be such a better introduction to this dungeon, just to the despair of what is to come, rather than just basically, like, the PCs are going to kill them. They're going to kill them. Like, if I had run this with a different group, they would have been like, orcs, I fire my longbow. Like, so that's my take on that. I think that would have been a much better way to handle it. And then, like, the next whole group of rooms is just traps and nothing. Just traps and nothing. And then the series of dark mantles, rats, and sturges that I've talked about. Like, there's so much in this entire region is just that. Empty rooms, dark mantles, rats of some kind, whether it's regular rats, dire rats, or rat swarms, and sturges. Like, there's so much of it, and it's so repetitive, and it's so irritating. Not just from the player's point of view, but from the DM. Like you forget what's coming next. You flip the page, and it's like, Oh, more dark panels. Cool. Then you flip the page and it's like, oh, another rat swarm. Cool. And my god, there's like, there are other low level enemies. This might be the only, yeah, it's the only level 1 to 3 region. Both of the adjacent regions here are levels 4 to 6. There are so many, so many low challenge rating enemies. And all they have here are Sturgis rats and rats and dark mantle. And it gets so annoying that there's a series of rooms later in Region A that are advanced dark mantles. Like, you gotta be kidding me. Is that the only creature you could think of that fits that niche? Like, what, a flying dark creature? That's it? You couldn't come up with anything else? Okay, sure. More dark mantles, because we haven't had enough of those yet. Oh, so just going by the headers here, right? I'll just stick to the headers. So that's like the first 20 rooms. You're probably thinking, my God, 20 rooms of that? Yeah, 20 rooms of that where there's just nothing. And then, well, I thought it was the next section, but A21, which is outside of 2 to 20 and then 22 to 24. 21 is a secret room. One thing that irks me about the maps is you can't just give the players the maps because the secret doors are listed on there. That is a convention that has always irritated me. Always irritated me because then I can't just give it to my player. I have to edit it. Like, come on, just 2 maps, one with it, one without it, or just tell the DM where it is. You just tell it. You don't need to put it on the map. Anyway, separate gripe. So the only other way to do it is just be like, look, guys, heart to heart, gentleman's agreement. You can see where the secret doors are, but if you fail the check to find it, you don't find it. Something like that. But this secret room doesn't have anything in it. So it's just like, yay, we found it. It's got a trap in it. It's drafty and it's safe. And then it's got some crap in it. Like, no joke. It says sword. Doesn't say what kind. Sword. Oh, no. Oh, no. Never mind. That's on the cards. I saw sword and I was like, what? No. It's all good. It's not that stupid. I'm sure that happens somewhere else, though. But no, there's nothing of value in here. It's like, it defines the gold value of the random crap in here. 280 gold pieces in value. So what? Literally nothing in here has trade. Nothing. I'll say that for another time yeah, I'll say that. Nothing printed in the module gives you any value for gold. So why would it list the gold value? That's just, I mean, like I said, they printed and reprinted the stats for the monsters every single encounter. So I guess they don't care that it's going to be bloated with text, right? Might as well put the gold piece value in there too, for no reason. But yeah, this room basically just serves as a gateway to the next region, which is where I mentioned earlier that there's no one way through it, right? And something this size you don't want to be linear, right? But a little more thought could have been put into the cartography. And I know somebody got a cartography credit. Who was it? It was Chris Dornhouse. But I also mentioned that a lot of it feels like a random map generator did it. And part of it is, like I mentioned, Region B, where it's just hilarity ensues when you talk about what's actually going on. But another part of it is the different challenges that happen and where they happen and how they're connected. And the connections are very poorly thought out. And then there's more of the fluff of it, how different groups interact and how that's worked out. Or in many cases, it just doesn't make any sense. Like they're separated by so much dungeon or hazards that it's like, wait, why are these groups at conflict with one another? Yeah, so from this beginning area, all these empty rooms, stupid enemies, you could pretty much go through this secret area into what's called the earthquake damage region, which is basically just dark mantled rats and some kobolds. Ooh, worth mentioning, it's the kobold with the web spellbook. We'll point that out. That does happen in the earthquake damage area. Or you could head north into several other areas. One of which is the pillar rooms, which is what's actually next here, which is 22 to 24. The only thing of note here really is a safe room where they can rest. Um, I mean, I could talk about the one ogre that's there that's supposed to be one of the like potential leaders of the goblinoids, which again you're not gonna be able to find out anything about. It's just a difficult encounter. Basically, it's like guaranteed to still be level 1, and you have an ogre that hides fairly successfully and gets first attack on the party. So like talking about a CR3 enemy here that could easily one shot any level 1 character. He does 2d8 plus 7 damage with his great club. Okay, he's got a full attack of plus 8, and his like tactics here are that he charges someone. So you're looking at a plus 10 attack against a likely not, exceedingly well equipped party, doing an average here of 16 damage. Like, that's it's a pretty easy way to kill a player, like right at the start of a campaign. It's supposed to be stupidly long. So I'm not a fan of this encounter. My party did not go this way initially. They eventually backtracked and found this room at least level 2. I feel like they were probably level 3. Like they completely missed the pillar rooms initially. So when they got to the ogre, I mean, they knocked his ass down and killed him. But no, for the most likely route is at least in this vicinity. I feel like that's kind of harsh. I mean, throwing a dire rat swarm at a level 1 party is kind of harsh too, just because they're not really good at fighting swarms in general. Like that's just a thing. Like level 1 parties are not great at fighting swarms. You can be, you can have the right attacks to do it, but just if you just pick any random group, like level 1 group, like they're not likely going to be optimized for swarms. There's a bunch of them. So anyway, after the pillars comes what's called the maze, which is 825 to 836. I think the maze is stupid. The whole place is filled with animal musk from troglodytes, because troglodytes have that stench when they're afraid or injured, whatever. So, like, what party is going to enter this area that as soon as they enter it have to start making checks, or I think are nauseated? I think they're nauseated the whole time. I don't even see the DC for it, but due to the close quarters and effects of the troglodyte musk, it's dangerous even for a well-prepared party. Oh, okay, so you just have to refer to the troglodyte stat block. But basically, you have to make that check against the troglodyte musk for this whole area. And I don't know, I'm pretty sure that my party went in, made their checks against the musk and was like, screw this, and just turned around and went the other way. And like, yeah, like that's the reasonable thing to do. Yes, like I agree with that. Like, if you have no incentive to go in any particular area, like this way, that way, what have you, if you are then subjected to an environmental hazard, if you have other choices, you're just going to take the other choices. So I don't like it. I think it's also called the maze for no reason. It's not a maze. It's just part of the dungeon. It's as much of a maze as any other part of the dungeon. So yeah, as like the troglodytes enclave, it works. But as an area that the party is actually going to be inclined to investigate, no, it's very much not. And if they do, there's actually a pretty deadly encounter with like all the troglodytes. But this is one of those potentially friendly, and friendly in quotation marks here, group, because you have to like the group has to be open to diplomatizing, and if they are taking the most likely route to this point, it's also very likely that they'll come across the only, I think it's the only orc who will befriend them. And he's a complete coward, and the only reason he's befriending them is so that he can get back to the orcs safely, basically. So, and you pass his room before you get to the troglodytes, most likely. So if you bring him with you, the troglodytes will attack you on sight. So not only are you likely to not be able to negotiate with the troglodytes, um, but you're not likely to go into that area anyway, because they're gonna be like, wait, what? Like, this whole place just stinks? And like, we're gonna get sick from being here? Like, no. Just go the other way. Like, there are other ways. There are plenty of other ways to go. So I don't like it. It's one of the few places that I believe actually has decent treasure to find. Take a quick look here at what it was. You have to either befriend them or fight through, like I said, a fairly deadly encounter to get to it. And then I guess it's a secret room. Yeah, secret room. You can find 2 light repeating crossbows with plenty of ammunition, um, and scores of pole arms and spears. So yeah, you can find all kinds of weapons there, basically. Being a storage room for munitions and supplies. It's also safe. Um, but like, there's so much to get through to get there, and then it still stinks. Still got the troglodyte musk. So it's like, man, all the good things are hard to get. The players will learn that very quickly, or they'll learn that there's nothing to get if they just can't find it, which is, a very realistic possibility. Um, so, so moving on is the quad, which really you just walk past. There are 4 rooms, hallway around them, doors leading away from them. They're like happily fed sturges in there and dire rats. You basically open the door, look in, and go, yeah, nothing worth wasting my time here. Shut the door, move on. Like, the quad is very much wasted opportunity. It's another wasted opportunity. The point of it was that there are workshops there, but the workshops are all destroyed, they're burned up, they're worthless. This could have been a great place for the parties to set up shop. It's like their own little base of operations, try to fix up and work on and use and whatever. Um, but yeah, they all. The furnace is functional, but unless the PCs have fuel with them, it can't be fired up. So, like, and then there's no explanation for what fuel it needs or where to get it or anything, which, they almost certainly can't get. Which is frustrating because, first of all, it's a prison. Why is there a workshop? Like, I'm not going to get into that. I'm just going to get it. I'm letting it go. So, it just, they should have been able to set up shop there, I think. I think that's, like I said, a great opportunity. But no, it's destroyed. And then there's the Kobold Stronghold, which is 41 to 45, which has no kobolds in it. So why is it the Kobold Stronghold? The only kobolds are in the earthquake damage region, which I mentioned. That's where they've set up shop. So again, misnomer. So this one has just rats. All the rats. Rats and more rats. And then you've got No One's Land, which just has traps. Lots of traps. I think some dark manals might be in there somewhere, but yeah, like traps and nothing. Traps and nothing. There's one decent treasure in this whole region, I feel like, and it's here. It's a wand of Melf's acid arrow, I think. Maybe I can find it real quick. There's some scrolls. Okay, scrolls in this area. Actually, in the room that I was thinking has the wand. Is there no wand here? Oh, no, there we go. Yep, and the wand of acid arrow. So It's got Scroll of Magic Missile, Scroll of Cat's Grace, Scroll of Flaming Sphere, and a Wand of Acid Arrow. But of course, you have to get past multiple traps and then find them because, of course, they're hidden. A search check of 28. Search check 28. Do some quick guesstimating here. Let's say you put level 1 your 4 checks into search. Let's say you got +5 modifier for it. It's +9. You'd still need a 19 to find it. So kind of not cool making that search check DC 28, gotta say. Especially if you're going to follow that advice from earlier. It's like, oh man, PCs have found everything up to this point. I'm just going to make it 38 to find that instead. They'll never find that Wand of Acid Arrow now with 17 charges. My party found it. I probably didn't make it DC 28. But yeah, that's how it's written. So hope they roll 19 or 20 and put like all of everything into search. But yeah, there's a whole lot of nothing in this area. There's one room of note, other than what I just mentioned with the treasures, which is the long hallway, which is a very long hallway. Hundreds of feet long, I think. Lots of different doors going to it. From there, you can go to basically every part of the region, which also means that there's no way for the DM to prepare for what happens next, because the party can go here and then just, boop, that's where we're going now. So they could go from, like, the most direct route here. Oh, I'm looking at the map. It's got, like, all the things written on it. Let me pull up the map that doesn't have all the things on it real quick here. Let's see. Bear with me. I've got it. All right. So you could conceivably, have minimal combats. You'd fight like Dark Mantle, maybe a rat swarm, some more rats, and then just go through all the empty places. And this is like a legitimate possibility here. Like, I'm not exaggerating. You go through all these empty places, hit this long hallway, maybe 4 encounters, maybe not even level up, still level 1, right? And then go from there, encountering a dire werebear and then longtail. Like, that is a legitimate possibility. Could 100% happen. So first of all, the dire owlbear will just tear you to shreds. Just most, level 1 parties, if they are not prepared, yeah, I think I'm comfortable saying that. If they're not prepared, they're going to get torn to shreds by this thing. Like, owlbear is what, I want to say CR3 normally? I think this thing is CR5. I should probably, actually find its stat block at this point. So, it's advanced, and it does a lot of damage, and it's gonna hit, and it's gonna tear somebody to shreds. Fiendish owlbear. Yep, it's CR5. So, so, things could happen, you could grease it, what have you, etc., right? But again, that's optimal. They're ready for it. If you're not ready for it, let's say it doesn't even kill anybody. Let's say the party expends a lot of resources, and it's whatever, let's just try one more room, just to see we're here, whatever, right? The next room is the climax. It's Longtail. And like I already told you, he's gonna know you're there. He's gonna shred you. He's gonna kill. Like my party, when they fought Longtail, right? They might have been level 2. I don't remember if they were level 2 or level 3. I feel like they did that encounter earlier than expected. Not this early. They didn't go straight there. But I can't say for certain they were level 3 when it happened. And typically, a boss versus a group, the boss just gets shredded. It's 1v4, 1v5, whatever. In my case, it was 1v6. But man, they just weren't prepared. They just weren't ready for, what is he, level 5 sorcerer, level 6 sorcerer? Where's Longtail? Oh, level 7 sorcerer. Oh, that's why you shred them. Level 7 sorcerer. So, like, here you go. Potentially a level 1 party against a level 7 sorcerer. Like, and like I said, like, I make it my own. I don't stick to necessarily the default tactics. I did with, a lot of the time just because it's easier if you've got just monster after monster after monster, just do what the book says rather than, like, try to advance it, what have you. But, like, yeah, like, it almost took out my party. And like, he doesn't even have the best spells or whatever. He's got magic missile though, and you're gonna keep hitting people with magic missile. It's a big room. He can fly. He can go invisible. He can move around and then target them again. Um, I could just imagine getting weakened by this owlbear and then getting shredded by a longtail. Campaign over. And I mean, I already railed on the fact that longtail is just a wasted character, but like the combination of owlbear and then longtail, it it kind of has that gauntlet feel to it that honestly didn't really need to happen. Like, the whole campaign is a gauntlet. Like, those encounters specifically could have been separated. You could have had them anywhere. Um, so, mm, just irksome. But I am going to take a break here, both because it's been, what, like 2 hours? Almost 2 hours, just longer than I expected. And also, my voice is going. So, I will just pick it up from whatever section was next. Let's see. Oh, that's the earthquake damage, yeah. So I'll just kind of pick it up there next time. So, see you then.